We are two book ramblers,
a podcast to get you to read beyond the lines.
Like Elvis said, the sun's down and the moon's pretty. It's time to ramble
about books. Today in Two Book Ramblers, Blurry Lines, books by authors with vision problems.
Within the past month, we came across two articles from different sources. One blog called Vision Australia and another one called Books Tells You Why. And they were both talking about the same topic, famous writers with vision problems. Serendipity? Maybe. But both articles gave us the idea for this episode, to talk about books being written by authors despite problems with their eyesight. I have my own eyeglasses on, so let's begin. Let's start with young Milton. Milton lost his sight due to glaucoma when he was about 43 years old. And although many interpreted Milton's blindness as punishment for criticizing the monarchy, Milton himself saw it as a blessing, which allowed him to focus on his art rather than on his image and looks. Milton is better known for Paradise Lost, a classic epic poem relating the battle between God and Satan in heaven, hell, and earth over the destiny of humankind. And if the title was not indication enough, Adam and Eve are at the center of the fight between these two forces. If you would like to visit the place in which Milton completed the book, you can head to John Milton's cottage in Chalfont, St. Giles, England. Milton came to this home as an escape from the plague of 1665, and here he would commit to memory the pieces of the poem that he would later dictate. The poem mentions several plants throughout, and many of them can be found around the cottage. There is a recipe for a drink inspired by Paradise Lost in an article from BuzzFeed called 9 Literary Cocktails to Quench Your Thirst for Knowledge and Alcohol. And if you want to have this drink while reading the book, pour gin and pomegranate juice on a glass garnished with a sliced fig.
I want to talk about Helen Keller. A severe illness at 19 months old obliterated her vision and audition. This also affected her ability to speak. Despite the obstacles and with the help of her teacher Anne Sullivan, Helen Keller learned to read and write. Later in life, she obtained a bachelor's degree from Radcliffe College. She wrote The Story of My Life, and this is an autobiography elapsing the first 22 years of her life, and it is full of moving and inspiring moments. Keller tells us in her own voice how obstacles are no match for human courage and perseverance. The book was adapted into the 1962 movie, The Miracle Worker.
And I want to talk about James Joyce. Joyce suffered from debilitating eye pain since he was 25. And as the pain and eye troubles continued, he was submitted to a long list of horrific surgeries and treatments that eventually led to the loss of sight in his left eye and the fitting of an artificial pupil. His last novel, Finnegan's Wake, took him 17 years to complete. Since he was opposed to dictate his writing, he wrote through a sliver of his squinting eyes and using crayons to enhance visibility. Finnegan's Wake is Joyce's masterpiece of a last novel. In his signature experimental style, Joyce gave us unforgettable characters while also making use of language as inventively and creatively as few writers can. And this novel is a literal never-ending story. It starts with a fragmented sentence that is the continuation of the also fragmented last sentence of the book. Fans will rejoice, see what I did there, at the Dublin Writers' Museum. Here, visitors can listen to a recording of Joyce's voice read from no other book than Finnegan's Wake. There are only 2 of these recordings in existence, by the way. On another Finnegan's Wake-inspired pilgrimage, you can see the desk at which the novel was completed in the James Joyce Centre, also in Dublin. Or, if that is more of your thing, Society 6 sells a hieroglyphic translation of the first page of the novel, fragmented sentence and all. And we have links for it in our page.
Another author with vision problems was James Thurber. He was blinded as a child in an accident involving an arrow while recreating the legend of William Tell with his brother. Thurber perceived his blindness as encouraging to the act of writing. He once said that the kingdom of the partly blind was like the fantastic lands of Oz or Wonderland, where anything was possible. He is known for writing The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. This is a short story first published in The New Yorker in 1939 and later included in Thurber's book, My World and Welcome to It. The book has been adapted to film twice, the most recent and popular instance being in 2013, starring Ben Stiller, Kristen Wiig, and Sean Penn. You can watch the trailer by visiting our page, twobookramblers.com. One of my favorite authors, Jorge Luis Borges, went blind when he was 55 years old, just like his father, grandmother, and great-grandfather before him. But the quote-unquote progressive nightfall, as he called the disease, did not deter his writing, and he compensated by memorizing his work. Ficciones by Jorge Luis Borges is our 6-word review book for this week. And this is our attempt. 17 Labyrinths Inside a Genius's Mind.
There's also a neurologist and author who has had vision problems. His name is Oliver Sacks, and he writes books on fascinating topics about the human mind. He was diagnosed with a malignant tumor in one of his eyes, and in his book The Mind's Eye, he wrote about himself and described the impact the tumor had on his own vision and visual perception. In this book, Sacks explained how the visual world is experienced in the form of three-dimensional perception, facial recognition, reading, and even the role vision plays in ideation. The book relates stories from people who have adapted to the loss of vision with resourcefulness, and some of these stories are first-person accounts by Sacks himself. The 2010 hardcover edition of The Mind's Eye is a perfect selection for this week's theme in our cover gallery. When you go to check it out, do not worry, your eyes are okay. The cover is supposed to look like that. Sue Townsend, the writer of the beloved Adrian series, also had experienced vision problems. She lost her eyesight due to complications with diabetes, and the last 3 books in the series were completed after Townsend had been registered as blind. Despite the vision impairments, she has always remained positive, stating that she would turn these into her advantage, and she even wrote one of the characters in the series losing his sight as well. We want to highlight the 8th and last book in the series. It's called Adrian The Prostate Years. We had met Adrian in the first book when he's 13 3/4, and throughout the series he's followed as he becomes an adult. And now, in the 8th book, he's middle-aged and the ups and downs of parenthood are plaguing him. There is a musical adaptation of the first book in the Adrian series that is no longer being staged, unfortunately, and the book has also been adapted for TV in the UK.
We have arrived to book versus book. This week, we have chosen 2 books written by Homer.
Homer is probably the most famous blind author. However, the thought that he was blind is based only on a character from his stories. In one of his epics, a blind poet called the Modicus is the one that performs music and epic tales for an audience. And the Modicus has been interpreted as Homer weaving himself into the story and hinting at his own life. Homer's epic poems were performed orally, not written. In this case, vision might not have been a problem to orate. However, the ability to perform his sagas are not less impressive. The book I'm presenting in this book versus book is The Iliad, and this is an epic account of the Trojan War, a sweeping story charged with action, featuring characters like Achilles, Helen of Troy, Hector, and other heroes and gods of Greek myth and history. It finishes as the Trojan horse is accepted inside the city walls, causing an end to a war that has lasted for a decade. Inspired by the Iliad, Valerie Stivers from the Paris Review has written an article where she recreates a feast in the same fashion as the ones had by the Greek army in the Iliad. She came up with the idea of skewering and grilling a boneless leg of lamb wrapped in pork belly and marinated with wine, based on Homer's details regarding the cuts of meat and how to roast them in spits. For dessert, she made a tart with figs and honey. Both ingredients are mentioned throughout the book. And finally, since a Homeric feast would not be complete without wine, she offers a list of wines from the regions or made from the grapes Homer refers to in the epic. The article offers extensive details for preparing every dish, the reason for selecting the ingredients, and information on obtaining the specific wines listed. And you can find this article by going to our page.
My pick is the Odyssey. The Odyssey picks up after the Iliad ends. Odysseus, the mastermind behind the Trojan horse, relies on his wit for surviving divine and natural forces. The epic narrates his 10-year voyage home to Ithaca after the Trojan War. This is at once a timeless human history and individual test of moral endurance. It is certainly possible to follow Odysseus' travels in the modern day. It might require the chartering of a yacht, but if you're up for it, Travel Earth offers you an ideal itinerary across Turkey, Greece, Malta, and Italy. You can find the link to the itinerary on our page. Both of Homer epics are our selection for book versus book this week. You can head over to our page and cast your vote.
We're gonna make a brief pause and we'll be back with guesswork.
We have arrived to guesswork. Here's the answer to last week's episode, The End of the Affair by Graham Greene. From this week, we have picked a book from a Pulitzer Prize winner who as a child was blinded in one eye when shot with a BB gun by an older brother. Here's the first line.
You better not never tell nobody but God.
And here's an excerpt from page 69.
Sophia write about her sisters. They all big, strong, healthy girls. Look like Amazons. They come early one morning in 2 wagons to pick Sophia up. She don't have much to take. Head on the children's clothes, a mattress she made last winter, a looking glass and a rocking chair, the children.
Do you recognize the book? You can let us know on our page, tobookramblers.com.
Before we go, I want to tell you about 2 books being released this week that we would like to recommend. The first one is A Wolf for a Spell by Kara Sutton, and this is a modern fairy tale for young readers where the wolf is not the big bad villain, but a hero and an ally of witches and humans. Zima is a young wolf seeking the help of Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga, by the way, is the old witch from Slavic folklore who lives in a chicken-footed house. And Nadia is a young girl who lives in a nearby village, and she is also seeking the help of Baba Yaga. An alliance is formed between Nadia, Zima, and Baba Yaga to save their families and the forest from a common enemy. The second book we would like to talk about is The Arctic Fury by Greer McAllister. Sir John Franklin was a captain in the British Royal Navy, and he disappeared during his Arctic expedition in 1845. The real event of the disappearance of John Franklin is the basis for the fictional event told in the novel, in which an expedition of 12 extraordinary women is organized by Jane Franklin, Sir John Franklin's wife, and led by Virginia Reef, an experienced trail guide, in order to go look for Sir John Franklin in the Arctic. But when not all the women in the expedition return, Virginia Reef is involved in a sensational murder trial a year and a half later in Boston.
If you know of any other books written by authors with vision problems, leave us a comment. We would love to know.
If you would like to purchase any of the books covered in our show today, you can visit our TBR Bundles page for a list of titles.
Did you know we have a newsletter? Everything we mention on the shows can be found there. Links, book covers, pictures, everything. Subscribe at twobookramblers.com. I think you will enjoy it. If you like our show, rate us and review us wherever you listen to podcasts.
Until next time, do as Shakespeare said,
and love all.
Trust a few.
Do wrong to none.